Hello everyone and welcome to Werven's World and welcome to my review of Stable Orbit. Stable Orbit is a game that's currently in early access, but it will be launching on September 27th. This game I got a review code for from the developer, so I did get it for free because he hoped that I was willing to do a review for the game. So I've been playing it a little bit and I am here to tell you what I think. So this game in a nutshell is basically you are building a space station. Maybe something reminiscent of the ISS, the International Space Station, but basically it orbits around Earth and you need to keep adding modules, but you also need to do research in order to fund your modules, and then you can attract more astronauts that they can do more research, but of course they need to be fed and they need to have oxygen and water, so on. So in a sense you could say it's kind of like a colony sim, except you are in space in a space station. So let's get started with the review. Before we dive into the game, let's look at the options, and here's kind of where things start falling apart already. My screen is actually 3440 x 1440, but at the moment I'm playing at 1920 x 1080. And well, this all doesn't work at all. If I click full screen and go to this resolution, everything goes wrong and I can't actually even click in the menus anymore. So the way I could only get the resolutions to work is to actually go into the Windows registry and then go to a file there and change the values there, and then I could actually run it on my native resolution. At the moment I'm just playing it in windowed mode so that it's easier to upload to YouTube and stuff like that. But according to my recording software there will be two black bars on the side, and I'm not entirely sure why, but well, I can't really do much about it. So yeah, we have some basic options like this MSAA, the maximum is 8 times, then UI scale, I upped that a little bit, and then we have sound and music volume. So it's very, very basic, no chance at all to rebind controls or anything, but we also see that we don't really necessarily need that. So let's actually jump into the game. So this is my current space station, that is my save game. It's very ugly as you can see, but let's start a new station so you can see how the game flows. So when we go into a new station we can call it whatever we want, and we can either do simulation, so then you actually have to take care of your astronauts and stuff like that, or we can do sandbox where you can just build a pretty station. So let's go into simulation and click launch.
Good day, Commander. All systems are operating normally.
And now you can see here, this is our basic core. So if we click on that, we can see this is our core. This costs us this much to maintain every day, and we get some inputs as well. Now I already running into problems, I can see, because normally I played it on full screen, and there should be a bar here which tells me about the stats that I have, like how much income do I have, what is the speed of the game, and so on. But it's not here for whatever reason. So it's probably got something to do with the resolution. But
good evening, Commander.
Well,
all systems are operating normally.
There's basically nothing I can do here. So what can we do? Well, not much. I can go to full screen and then this happens. Hooray. And then I need to find where I can click on this arrow here. Here we go. Yay. Okay, so I got nothing done, so I think I will just continue the recording at full screen and then we'll resize it back because, well, this basically just doesn't work. So now I've got everything to work. I went back into the registry editor and changed the values to my full widescreen screen, and now everything works. But yeah, as you can see, it's not perfect, but I left the previous part in the video so you can see that it's just all not really perfect yet. So yeah, let's just make the ISS again. Let's launch it. Yes, override it. So we've got a station here. So let's go into the basics of the game before we go into, well, the details of what's nice and what's not nice about this game. One thing that you should know, I cannot put the voices of the voiceover any lower here, so that will sometimes be wide and or loud, and she will keep interrupting me with messages.
Good day, Commander. All systems are operating normally.
That's what I meant. So what we have here
performing automatic station keeping boost.
So what we have here is our core, and our core produces a little bit of electricity, and it can store some oxygen, water, and food as well as waste. However, it also heats up and it accumulates waste as well. So now we actually have our toolbar, yay! There's a couple of things that you should know about the toolbar. It doesn't really work very well. Here is the time, and let's say I want to click play now. I can't, because it goes away. So I have to go here and then click play, and then it works. I can also use space for that, but as you can see, I have to hold space now to keep playing. And as far as I know, there's no hotkeys for anything. So yeah, that is not great. So there's a couple of buttons here. So there's a calendar, we can see what time it is and when the next supply shuttle will come. Our current astronauts, which is 0 at the moment. Where we are on Earth, which is pretty cool because he used a high-res map from NASA to look at the Earth, which I think is very cool. Very atmospheric. And then we've got basically our supply. So we got money, astronauts, electricity, battery power, oxygen, water, food, waste, temperature and waste, and how high we are in orbit. So we need to make sure that we don't crash into the Earth. And we can do that by adding more boosters to this whole station. Now, what we have to do is we have to click on these modules here in order to make a functioning colony. So for example, I can say I want to have a lab here, and I buy that. But I also need a person here, and that is an astronaut, and this thing can already house an astronaut. So then I can add here a docking station so that this astronaut can actually arrive. However, at some point then this thing will become too hot, because the bigger this gets, the more solar radiation it gets, and then the more it overheats. So we will need to make sure that we also get radiation out of this thing again. So if we start playing and we fast forward a little bit, now I made a truss and I can put some radiator there. And now basically we've got everything we need in order to accept an astronaut here. So as you can see here, Dock 1 has no power, so then we should kind of add a battery, because at night the solar panels don't work. So we need to, our excess energy needs to go to a battery so that during the night we can actually do something.
You have new research contracts.
So now we've built our lab, but we don't actually have
A supply pod is nearing the station, Commander.
As you can see, now we got a supply pod which arrived here, and it brought us a astronaut, Jeff Gennaro. And Jeff Gennaro can now start researching. So we can basically just click on these researching things, and they don't really do anything except for this one. They just give us money once they're finished. So we have 106 million, 71 million, 75 million, 178 million. So we can accept those. We can also accept this one if we want to. It just unlocks new specializations. Once we go up in our researching level, we actually need to have a lab specialized in, for example, biology or spacefair or whatever thing we want to research. They all have kind of topics here, technology. So you can specialize labs into those things, and then you can do higher level research.
Departing supply pod crew sends you their regards, Commander.
Great. So now we can see here that we have 2 weeks of oxygen left for this astronaut, 2.9 weeks of water, and 3 weeks of food. Now what we need to do is we need to turn this waste into water, and then we need to turn that water into oxygen through hydrolysis, I guess you call it. So we can click here, and then we can say make a waste recycler, and then we can say here make
Research
a
complete.
Oxygen generator. So these things get built then.
Boosting station
Now,
altitude.
The most important thing here is money. Once the money runs out, we basically...
Commander, we are running out of water.
We lose the ability to kind of maintain all our things, and everything will slowly get damaged, which is not great at all. So now we are running out of water, it says.
Out of water. Commander,
so what we could do is we could
water.
add another water tank. So what we can do is we can say here's a truss. And then we can say make ourselves a water tank.
Water levels are dangerously low,
there we go.
Commander.
Now we have 7 months worth of water, which is good. And, well, we have 2 weeks worth of meals, but every week there will be a space pod coming here in order to, well, bring us new supplies. So that's great. Sometimes you will get random
Boosting
events
station altitude.
where, for example, your solar panel just gets hit by debris and suddenly gets slammed
All
off. And
accepted
then,
research contracts have been completed.
well, and then you just need to make a new one. So sometimes you have random events like that, and you can also just here click accept all. That's how the game works. Now comes the problem with the game. And the problem with the game is, well, you've already seen everything now. This is all you can do, basically. There's a couple of things you can unlock. So as you can see here, I can make a small lab at the moment, but I can make a large lab later on. At the moment I can make small habitats to have one astronaut in, but I can make large habitats later on. I can make larger solar panels. I can do better research with more technologies, but I can basically load in my big one, and you can see what I mean. That's this one here.
Good day, Commander. All systems are operating normally.
So as you can see here, this is my space station. I've got solar panels here, quite a lot. I've got here these radiator units in order to make sure that my thing doesn't overheat, which is actually doing quite hard here, so I should make another one. I've got a couple of different labs here, so as you can see I'm doing a lot of research here, but at the moment I don't have an Earth and Space lab, I think because something went wrong with that. Probably because something was overheating, I'm not sure. You can build a radiator. But basically you do keep getting some problems, like if you want more astronauts, they're gonna use more food, so you want to have more food storage, but that makes you then overheat more, so you need more radiators, but then you need more RCS thrusters in order to keep in orbit, and so on. But these are the only components that we can work with, and basically nothing ever changes in this game. This is the only stuff that I can do. I can just keep adding on to this station, but it doesn't do anything. I can add on whatever I want, but I never will unlock more cool stuff, or basically it's just, well, you can accumulate more money and you can get more and more astronauts, and it's maybe a tiny bit of a challenge, but it took me, I think, 4 tries to make my first stable space station, and that is actually this one. Once you figured out what you have to do, you can basically continue indefinitely, although as you can see here I'm not doing a humongously good job at the moment because I only have 300 million, so if something goes wrong I might be in trouble. So I should specialize a lab into Earth and Space and start researching those things. But these are all the things that I've already researched. And yeah, again, basically nothing changes. There's definitely some cool things in this game. First of all, the music is really nice and relaxing. I really like the atmosphere of the game. It's a little bit like Kerbal Space Program. I always loved if I was in orbit there and just like hang around and listen to the music and look at space, which is really enjoyable. But the problem is, after about, I would say 1 hour, 1.5 hours of gameplay, there is just nothing here anymore. And that's really a shame, because there is definitely a good game in here, but it desperately needs more content. So to summarize, this is not a bad game. It's just really underdeveloped still. Like, the options don't work, it needs more options. The UI is not great. The graphics are okay, the music is really nice, but there's just not enough gameplay here. You can play it for an hour and maybe, well, you can jump in back and forth into it for a couple of minutes every day and add to your space station, but it just doesn't do anything for the rest. And that's a huge shame. So I would really, in my opinion, it should not be a full release yet. It should stay in early access for a little bit, add a little bit more content, because there is definitely a great concept for a game here, but it needs to be further developed. So with that, I hope you found this review useful, and see you next time.